Hello everyone, welcome back to My Hero Academia Podfics. Today I'll be reading a one-shot entitled Red on Green. This is a really cute one-shot that's shindeku. I hope you guys enjoy. Hitoshi has been able to see the red threads since he was a kid. He doesn't remember the very first instance when he saw them, nor why he of all people can see them at all, but they're there. They're meant to show a connection between people, the universe's way of saying these people are perfect for each other. Hitoshi can't always see the threads. They only appear when a person's soulmate is within a certain distance of them. Most of the threads signify a romantic bond, but Hitoshi has seen people decide the relationship wasn't for them. Luckily, there are several types of relationships and bonds. Not all soulmates stay together, even as friends, and Hitoshi thinks there's nothing wrong with that. Having a soulmate does not mean that you're destined to be with one person forever. There's no pushing force that decides it's for you. No, it's just someone fate has decided is on a similar level to you in a romantic regard. It's your own decision to pursue it or not. That being said, Hitoshi has seen a fair share of every possible outcome. He's awfully clumsy, you know, getting distracted and bumping into someone with a little more force than necessary when their soulmate just so happens to be walking by. They're forced to jump in and help the fallen person. He apologizes. He really needs to stop getting lost in his head. Daydreaming is both a blessing and a curse. Most times, people just wave him off with a laugh, which, yeah, is understandable because they just met the person that's supposedly meant to be perfect for them. People often tend to feel some kind of inexplicable pull towards their soulmate. Sometimes it's just that feeling of, whoa, they're really pretty, or other variants along the line. He's seen people around his home and usual hangout spots slowly fall in and out of love with their soulmates. Some stay together, others decide to stay friends. Sometimes people even form queer platonic relationships. Sometimes they consider a polyamorous route because one of them was already in one. And sometimes people just go their separate ways. Hitoshi really can't judge, especially considering that he decided immediately that he wanted absolutely nothing like a romantic relationship with his own soulmate the moment he had a conversation with them. He'd finally been transferred to Class 1A because apparently someone got that tiny great menace booted from the school in total. Good for the girls of UA, he saw how the little shit leered at them in midnight during the sports festival. The guy didn't deserve to be in the hero course if that's how he was going to treat women. He'd glanced down to find a red string tied around his middle finger, topped with a little bow, which was really fucking funny, to be honest. Of course, it was him that got stuck with the most crude finger. Red threads can be attached anywhere from the elbow to the tips of your fingers. He's seen some people have it right at their elbow. Others looked like it was just barely hanging on to their right finger. He knows that the placings have something to do with the type of bond or the person they're connected to, but he's never really gotten a chance to find out aside from brief theories. It's hard to ask people about things they can't see. The revelation he had a soulmate in Class 1A made him sigh heavily. He decided that he didn't want to be in a relationship with his soulmate because the moment that he sat down, he was being crowded by a blonde with a black streak in his hair. Denki Kaminari, his soulmate, was one of the first people he encountered in the festival. How had he not noticed the thread? Granted, he'd been more focused on beating the boy and everyone else, but the bright red of the threads is pretty damn hard to miss. Kaminari's end is tied around his ring finger, which Hitoshi thinks is fitting to his flirty personality. How he knows Kaminari is flirty? The blonde decided to flirt with Hitoshi the moment he sat down. Normally, he wouldn't have a problem with that, but the blonde has absolutely no concept of personal boundaries. Leaning so close to someone's face that they can smell your breakfast on your breath should be something that everyone should avoid doing to someone they just met. And despite being so close to Hitoshi, the blonde is so loud. And he wouldn't stop despite Hitoshi's many hints that he was uncomfortable with how close he was. Yeah, maybe he should have just told him outright that he wasn't comfortable. Communication is key, after all. But frankly, he didn't really want to be associated too closely with someone that needed to be told to stay out of personal bubbles. Hitoshi definitely wants to be in close proximity and contact to someone he loves. He'll want to hold their hand, hug them from behind, leave quick kisses as he passes by them. But someone who acts like that with a stranger is a big deal breaker. He's not going to watch his significant other lean close enough to someone they don't know that it looks like they're about to kiss. He already had a poor impression of the heroics class, but this was just a whole different level of annoying to deal with. He's tired. Leave him alone. Had Kaminari stayed a respectable distance away and kept his volume at lower levels, Hitoshi would have actually considered him. He mentioned earlier that people felt an inexplicable pull to their attached half. It made sense that Kaminari felt the need to flirt with him. Hitoshi could acknowledge that Kaminari was attractive, but physical appearance held no weight to him when he's looking for someone that he wants to spend the rest of his life with. Kaminari had good looks, but he was loud, pushy, and inconsiderate of personal space. Maybe he's making Kaminari sound like a bad guy. He's really not. He actually seemed really nice, both from what Hitoshi had briefly seen in the classroom and watching him at the sports festival. Maybe he's being a little harsh, but Hitoshi doesn't want Kaminari. Maybe someone else would, but not him. Just his luck, he sighs, watching Kaminari talk to his friends a little more dejectedly than he had before. The person that would supposedly be perfect for him is not someone he wants. Did the universe even try for him? Clearly, Kaminari isn't a perfect match if Hitoshi was this repulsed by his habits. He almost jumps out of his seat when another blonde 2 seats in front of him, Katsuki Bakugo, he thinks, quite literally blows up. Explosions pop from his hands as he shouts at someone standing in the doorway. Are all blondes this loud and obnoxious? He's pretty sure that French guy he saw in the festival wasn't much better either. Hitoshi vaguely notices the red thread wrapped around the blonde's thumb. Fitting. Had humans looked at their own hands from an outside perspective, the thumb would definitely stick out in many ways, just as Bakugo does. The string is branched out to the doorway. Bakugo's yelling at his soulmate. Lovely. At least Kaminari didn't yell in anger. Hitoshi lets his eyes trail along the thread to see which sad soul it's possibly stuck with the Pomeranian. His eyes meet a pair of emerald eyes, and Hitoshi feels his heart stop. Izuku Midoriya is an enigma to everyone outside of the heroics course. The boy smiles so brightly, yet breaks his own bones with the same eagerness. Hitoshi's old classmates joked about the boy being the highest level of masochist there was. Hitoshi admits he's a little scared of the greenette. The boy is the only person to ever break out of Hitoshi's quirk. He and that tail guy know better than anyone what his quirk does. They know what it is and what makes him. And now he's going to be stuck in a classroom with them for the next 3 years. Ah, yes, he can't wait for the confrontation with the boy with the quirk that breaks his own bones and shatters ice with air force alone. But Hitoshi can't focus on that right now. He's focused on Midoriya's thread. He's seen the thread in more unorthodox places. Elbows, wrists, his own middle finger as an example. He's never seen the thread past someone's elbow. It's always attached to the lower arm somewhere, left or right, it doesn't matter. So why is Midoriya's thread wrapped around his neck? Fate picks favorites, Hitoshi realizes. He's not a favorite himself, but he's certainly not exactly low on the favor scale either. Sure, he didn't have many friends growing up. His biological parents gave him up at 5, and he doesn't have a soulmate that he feels connected to, but it's not terrible. Classmates didn't seem to care much about him in general. He has 2 great dads that adopted him at 8, and he doesn't really mind not feeling connected to Kaminari. It's just, it leaves more options open to him. He's not going to force himself to love someone that he knows will eventually annoy him to death. Maybe he can try to be friends with the boy, but he sure as hell won't pursue him romantically. Midoriya, on the other hand, must be very low. His red thread is basically a leash. Bakugo has his end on one finger that's perfect for gripping, and Midoriya has it around his neck. It's pretty easy to see the picture that's being painted here. Hitoshi isn't much of an art critic, but he can say with certainty that this is bad art, and he hates it. Bakugo is a favorite. Hitoshi can tell at a glance that most of the blonde's life has been smooth sailing. The boat barely even rocked. He has the perfect quirk, present and supportive parents as well, friends who basically refuse to leave. He probably hasn't faced a hardship in his entire life before UA. Hitoshi thinks with a scowl as he watches the explosive boy yell at a red-haired kid, Kirishima. He's loud, egotistical, brash, and downright hostile at times. The perfect picture of those with heroic quirks. Midoriya, though? He doesn't make sense to Hitoshi. His quirk is perfect for heroics, too, much like Bakugo's, but he isn't like Bakugo at all. Midoriya is meek, jittery, kind, and trusting. He's nervous in a way that Hitoshi recognizes and relates to. He's wary of fast movements and has no ego whatsoever. And he's nice. And it's weird. What life did Midoriya lead before UA to end up like that? To be this bundle of nerves that flinches when Ida chops his arms? Shinso, speak of the devil and he shall appear. The purpleette looks to his left to find Midoriya Izuku standing by the table, a bento box clutched in his hand. Oh, he probably wants to sit here. Huh. Yes? Would you mind if I sat with you? The greenette smiles. I wanted to officially welcome you to our class and noticed that you were sitting alone. Oh, Hitoshi thinks. Knock yourself out. He waves, turning back to his lunch tray. Midoriya squeaks out a thank you and plops himself down in the seat across from him. I'm so happy that you're in our class, he beams. I know that your transfer wasn't super late, but it still let you a little behind a few weeks, right? I just wanted to let you know that if you need help catching up or need a question answered, that I'm always here. What's the catch? Hitoshi asks in a faux boredom, propping his cheek against his palm as he stirs the rice on his tray. Sue him. He's a little interested to see how this goes. He's not sensing any hints of quirkism, another confusing thing about Midoriya. Huh? The shorter squeaks back intelligently. Catch? What do you mean? Is he serious? Hitoshi raises a brow. The catch. What do you want in return? What? Why would I want something? Midoriya tilts his head. God, this kid is fucking weird. Hitoshi spares him a glance. Down to the greenette's neck as well, feeling something in him soften at seeing the just barely there red thread string. It's very faded. It's most likely from the distance between Midoriya and Bakugo in the cafeteria. Hitoshi momentarily considers asking Midoriya if he wants to move outside. Whatever, he grunts, shoving a rice ball in his mouth to distract his thoughts. Thanks, I guess. Any time. Hitoshi's eyes find themselves repeatedly flicking down to the red against Midoriya's skin for the remainder of lunch. Shinzo-kun! Shinzo-kun! Hitoshi holds back a very admittedly fond sigh as he turns to watch the greenette bound up to him, catching up to him as well. The shorter's chest heaves with his run, but his smile is no less dimmer than it usually is. Hey, Midoriya, he greets easily. Do you want to pair up during heroics class? We're doing quirkless sparring, and I really want to get some practice in, and I think of all the people in class that you'd be the best to help with it. Midoriya rambles. He pauses before adding a quieter, if you want to, that is. Hitoshi chuckles softly, rubbing the back of his neck, out of habit. Sure, just promise me that you won't use your quirk by accident. He jokes. Oh, you don't have to worry about that. Thank you. Midoriya grins. Ever since that day at lunch, Midoriya has been setting aside a lot more time for Hitoshi. He doesn't sit with him at lunch every single day, but he does pretty often. If there's an assignment in class where they need partners, Midoriya's first move is to twist in his seat and ask Hitoshi if he wants to work together. It's kind of funny that just hearing the word partners, then glancing in front of you to see a boy whip around in his seat to stare at you with a big smile. Hitoshi hasn't felt this wanted in a while. It's nice. You know, I don't think your quirk is brainwashing. Hitoshi has to blink because, had he heard that right? He turns his head to stare at Midoriya, lying next to him in the grass. They'd made a habit of visiting parks together, just lazing around in the warm sun and doing their own thing. Midoriya suggested taking naps in sunlight to possibly help with Hitoshi's insomnia, and he was a little amused that Midoriya is basically calling him a cat in that regard. Happy, because he loves cats, but amused. Come again? He asks. I don't think your quirk is brainwashing, Midoriya repeats, his eyes never once moving from the sky. Okay, so what is it then? His voice is absolutely full of the skepticism that he feels. Brainwashing is more like overriding something that already exists. You can't influence how people think. You're not changing something that was already there. The greenette explains, finally turning his head to make eye contact with Hitoshi. Hitoshi remains silent. What can he say? He's been ostracized and picked on for something that apparently didn't exist. I would say it's close to something like hypnosis or sleepwalking, Midoriya continues. Granted, I'm pretty sure that a basis for hypnosis is that a person can't do anything that they wouldn't normally do while conscious. So I think that suggestible sleepwalking is the best explanation. I can make people sleepwalk. Hitoshi runs a hand down his face, feeling fatigue weighing on him. Yeah, it's kind of like you're putting their body in a puppet-like state, They're not fully connected to it or aware of it, like when you fall asleep, hence the name. But you're able to swap out of their control with yours. You're not erasing or conditioning thoughts, you're just making people listen. Like puppetry, Midoriya smiles. So I just control the parts of their brain that are in charge of body movements? Hitoshi deduces. Yes. The smaller props himself up on his arms. That's probably why the pain snaps people out of it. You probably are only controlling what they physically do, not what they physically feel. It reconnects the two. Lovely. Despite the negativity that came with the new revelation, he can't help but feel lighter and softer as he watches Midoriya pump a fist. For what it's worth, I think your quirk is really cool either way, Midoriya promises, his eyes twinkling. Hitoshi takes a moment to stare, to watch that freckled face smile so gently at him. A breeze runs through the air and is rustling the forest of curls that Hitoshi doesn't doubt are soft to the touch. He gawks because, for a moment, he swears he saw something red. He let his gaze shift down only to meet grass. Looking back up, he meets Midoriya's eyes. He lets a smile of his own curl on his lips. Thanks, Midoriya. Hitoshi watches with a scowl as Midoriya tries to calm a very volatile Bakugo, the mentioned ashen blonde setting off sparks in his palms as he murderously glares at Midoriya. Bakugo needs serious anger management. He's going to end up killing someone, probably Midoriya, at some point. But oh no, it'll be an accident. Bakugo never meant to hurt someone. No, he's a hero. We shouldn't tarnish his name with false claims of attempted murder. Don't overreact. Oh, piss off. Midoriya's been nothing but patient and accommodating with the blonde brat. He couldn't help but let his eyes linger on the red around Midoriya's neck as the greenette holds up his hands in a surrendering position. He hates it. He doesn't like seeing that color in a spot that he knows it's not supposed to be. He hates that Midoriya, of all people, is the one stuck with a bond that's so bad. Midoriya has done nothing in his life to deserve this. Done nothing to be treated like some kind of dog, like he's lower than human. Bakugo, he hisses out. The ashen blonde whips around to face him, hands still sparking his anger. Huh? Hook. Do you ever shut up? Hitoshi asks, his brows cocked and the familiar river of power coursing through his head. Line. What'd you just say? And sinker. Bakugo's eyes go vacant, an empty red as his posture loses all the tension. The popping stops. Sit down. Bakugo has no choice but to follow the order, but Hitoshi doesn't release his hold after the volatile teen is seated. He turns instead to look at Midoriya. The green-haired teen looks confused and a little odd, Hitoshi realizes with pinking ears. You okay, Mido? He asks carefully. Midoriya snaps out of his trance, shaking his head. Hitoshi is pulled in by the almost mesmerizing view of those curls bouncing and swaying in the movement. Cute. Shinso, you're not supposed to use your quirk. Midoriya scolds with no real heat, but Hitoshi just snorts. Don't worry, I'll let him go when Aizawa-sensei comes back, he promises. Are you sure? Midoriya asks uncertainly. I don't want you to get in trouble for something so small. I said don't worry about it, Hitoshi repeats, smiling. Midoriya's cheeks flush pink for a moment, and Hitoshi finds himself drawn in by the sight. Yeah, definitely cute. You and Midoriya seem to be getting along. Hitoshi pauses from what he'd been about to drink from his water bottle, slowly lowering the item as he turns his head enough to blink at Aizawa. The teacher only stares back, eyes tired. Hitoshi swears he sees something teasing in those gray eyes, though. He's nice. He's reluctantly not agreeing. Aizawa hums, glancing away for a moment before making eye contact with Hitoshi. Just nice? He asks. Why the sudden interest? Hitoshi fires back defensively. I'm curious. Humor me. Hitoshi takes another moment to scan Aizawa's body language. He's completely relaxed, slouched on one of the benches of the gym. Why does the man have to be so hard to read? It's complicated, Hitoshi admits after a moment, rubbing the back of his neck. Kinda hard to explain without sounding crazy. Try me. There's no way he's telling an adult about the threads. Not like it should matter. Hitoshi knows Aizawa already has found out and married his soulmate. Yeah, maybe he hadn't been expecting present Mike to be that soulmate, but opposites attract, he supposes. Kinda like him and Midoriya. Huh, let's not think about that right now. Hitoshi grunts and rubs his forehead. I don't know, he doesn't deserve a lot of the stuff that's happening to him. He hates how he phrased it as a question. Can you elaborate on that? Aizawa asks after a beat of silence. I don't think it's really my place to say, Hitoshi admits. Not that Midoriya would be able to admit it either. He doesn't even know about it. Aizawa gives a soft hum, pushing Hitoshi to continue. He just feels different in so many ways. I feel drawn to him. I want to be close to him. And I don't know. What else could I do? I just want to be with him. He feels a little embarrassed about admitting all this to his teacher, but he trusts Aizawa. Have you told him that? Hitoshi blinks, looking back to meet Aizawa's eyes. No, he slowly answers. I suggest trying. Hitoshi opens his mouth to respond, to deny the suggestion, but Aizawa swiftly stands and gives him a pointed look before he can. We're done for today. Go home. And he turns and leaves. Hitoshi is left staring after his mentor with wide eyes. Should he... Good morning, Shinso-kun. The happy voice of a certain greenette startles Hitoshi so much that he trips over his own feet. Thankfully, he's saved from kissing the tiles of the hallway by a strong pair of arms catching him. Hitoshi's entire face goes red when he realizes Midoriya caught him. Oh god, oh god, oh god. Shinso, careful, are you okay? I'm sorry if I scared you. The greenette frets easily, righting the taller boy. His hands hover around Hitoshi's form like the other will tip over and plummet to the ground once more. Why did Aizawa have to talk to him about all that yesterday? Now it's all that's on his mind. He's staring, he knows he is, but Midoriya just looks so adorable with his pink, chubby cheeks and that little button nose dusted in freckles. Those wide eyes that can express any emotion and make it look good aren't failing to capture Hitoshi in their pools of viridian in the slightest. He can only hyperfixate even, on those bold shoulders and strong arms under the blazer that he knows could probably pick him up and throw him. The thought makes him sweat. I'm so gay. Shinso? He's jolted out of his gay panic by Midoriya's concerned voice. His brows are furrowed to match. Are you okay? Do you need to see Recovery Girl? I'm fine. Fuck, he stuttered. Are you sure? You didn't hit your head or anything, right? Hitoshi clears his throat, placing his hands on the shorter's firm shoulders. Oh god, the panic got worse. He shouldn't have done that. Regardless, he tries to continue with his original plan. Midoriya, I'm fine, I promise. He reassures him, mentally cheering that he managed to keep a stern voice. If you say so. Oh, trust him, he doesn't believe a single word he's saying either. And it's quite clear that Midoriya didn't either, because he asks a single question at lunch that throws Hitoshi completely off course. Did I do something to upset you? The rice ball doesn't make it to Hitoshi's mouth as he pauses to stare at Midoriya in confusion. Of course not. He doesn't think that Midoriya is capable of doing something that upsets him, honestly, or at least not intentionally. Midoriya doesn't respond, instead looking down with uncertain eyes. What makes you think you did something, or that I'm even upset? Hitoshi asks gently. You were just acting really weird this morning, and you haven't been talking to me all day, really, so I thought... He trails off, picking at the corner of his bento box. Hitoshi mentally and almost physically slaps himself. Dumbass. Hitoshi sighs, setting his utensils down. You didn't do anything, Mito. I've just been thinking about some things lately, he admits, feeling his cheeks heat up. Oh! Hitoshi feels relief at seeing the way Midoriya perks up, thankfully believing him. Like what, if you don't mind me asking, that is? Hitoshi laughs softly as the boy waves his hands. I don't mind, he says. I guess it'd be right to tell you, since it does involve you. Midoriya blinks, and Hitoshi uses the silence to continue. Do you ever meet someone, and you just can't help but think that they're amazing? You want to do everything that you can to stay by their side, but you don't know how. He starts. He hears a soft, yeah, from the teen in front of him. It sounds very dejected, and Hitoshi frowns. His friend, Crush, is looking down at the table. Well, I've got someone like that, and I really want to tell him, but I don't know if he'd be interested, he admits. Midoriya looks up at Hitoshi for a moment, making eye contact through the green curls. Who is it? Hitoshi pauses. I suggest trying. He takes a deep breath. It's you. Feels like everything freezes around them, like they're trapped in a bubble. It's only them in this world, nothing else matters. Slowly, Midoriya's head lifts, and Hitoshi looks into wide, awestruck emeralds. Me? He echoes carefully, and Hitoshi nods with no hesitation at all, feeling the smile with his cheeks when Midoriya sparkles. He looks away from Hitoshi for a split second, his doubt visible on his face before seeming to steel himself as he reaches forward and gently grasps Hitoshi's hand resting on the table. He can't look away even if he wanted to. He knows he wouldn't be able to do it. Their fingers intertwine. The two have matching smiles, cheeks dusted in soft shades of pink. Someone yells from across the cafeteria, but neither care. They only care about the here and now between them. Maybe if Hitoshi had chanced to glance around the cafeteria, he would have spotted his raven-haired mentor standing a few tables away. Maybe he would have noticed how the man was watching with a soft, satisfied smile. But he doesn't notice. He's too busy admiring the boy in front of him, in his freckled, scarred green glory. Which means that he doesn't notice how Aizawa's eyes are trained on the red thread connecting the two teens' interlocked pinkies. All right, everyone, that concludes Red on Green. I hope you all enjoyed that one, and as always, thank you so much for listening.